Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Strife's Sanctum. My name is Citizen Strife, and this week's episode, we're going back in time to Sonic, yet again, with Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So, I talked last year or so about the first game, and I kind of ranked each game based on its style, the aesthetics, and its boss fight. I'm not going to go through as much rigmarole as that, mostly due to the length that this game has, the amount of stages that it has, but you can we'll get a general gist of the vibes of each stage as I go through them, because that's kind of how I'm going to talk about this. But by and large, I do like Sonic 2 better. It plays way better, just no mistake. Mostly just because of the fact that you can do the dash roll. That saves so much trouble that isn't a problem in every game going forward, is the ability to go from a dead stop to just have momentum. Being able to dash roll is tremendous. Obviously, the visuals get a major upgrade. Movement gets a major upgrade. And I think the level design, too, is going to be a huge improvement, as is, say, the bosses. The bosses are still going to have their simplicity, but I think just the nature of the way the bosses are developed is better. And by and large, 2 is just huge. But I want to talk over a couple of things. And obviously, I got to mention Tails first. And Tails... it's fine, I suppose. Let's face it. Sonic is meant to be the cool one. Tails is meant to be the dorky one. And I can't separate Tails from any interpretation. Any of the voice acted roles. Not even just his input in the games. It's when I think of Tails, I don't even think of Tails in the games just being the helper. I think of Tails as the gearhead, with the sort of whiny-ish voice and Sonic and all that junk. But remember that this is coming back from the time where it's it was just them. It was just them and Dr. Robotnik, or Dr. Eggman, which you prefer. And the less people around them, the better. That's why those first few games are so good, is because they don't pile on every single goddamn person in the cast list. There are some mainstays, but by and large, the more people you add, the more it gets just annoying. So having just, hey, the cool one and the dorky one, and just having them fly everywhere and do that stuff. And then, Tails mechanically, the whole idea is Tails can't die, because he technically can't. Sometimes they'll actually steal your bubbles, which is annoying. I've seen that happen. I watched a streamer have that happen to him once. It was really bad. But by and large, Tails is great. And he's cheap as shit because he can fly. Why would you ever use anybody else to fly? Flying over stages is the perfect kind of cheese in a video game like this. I wish I had flight in every single stage. Because I kind of use that Super Mario World all the time. It's when I have the cape, I just wow over any stage that I can. I don't care, as long as it's a stage that I can do. No, not every stage you can do that, Mystic Cave or whatever. But by and large, most stages are going to be ones you can fly over, unless they have the stuff. Which is why, Sonic 3 introduced Tails, and it's hey, that's kind of neat. But as far as the stages go, I do have one or two favorites, and some of the others are hit and miss. Let's face it, Emerald Hill Zone is Green Hill Zone, but a little prettier. I like the fact that the Emerald Hill Zone has a lot bigger, lusher, thicker looking greenery. But that's all I really know about Emerald Hills, Emerald Hill. Because Green Hill Zone is very nice and very colorful, and it's got a nice wider backdrop and shot. Emerald Hill is very closed off looking. It's a lot of water and a lot of green. and it's just waterfalls and greenery. There's not really a whole bunch that I could say about it. The boss is pretty simplistic. It's just, hey, I have a drill. Jump over me. And then we can move on. I mean, I do appreciate that every game tries to have a green hill zone in some form or fashion, but there's only so much you can do with the green place. Which is why whenever people talk about Sonic 2, they always bring up Chemical Plant instead. Now, I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but I honestly don't like Chemical Plant. I like the song, but I don't really like the layout too much. I don't like the industrial plant stuff. I don't like the purple goo. I don't like any level that forces me underwater. And a lot of it is the claustrophobia of parts of the stages. Is a lot of the difficulty from these stages comes from screwing up and getting caught in those platforms, that rise up and across the stage. And you probably know what I'm talking about. The ones where if you fall, you drown. Or are more likely to drown because the water level is rising and falling and shit like that. But there's also specifically, like, in the second part of the stage, the one I remember. So Act 2 is you're trying to get somewhere towards Eggman, and you're almost there, but there's the platforms that kind of sequence together. They squish together, so you jump on them, and then if you mistime it, you're going down. You can't really save yourself. You're just kind of boned. It's not as egregious as the one in Mystic Cave that everybody remembers. The death pit of, hey, you're just dead, die. It's more sinister than that. Like I said, I love the music of Chemical Plant Zone. The boss is okay, but the fact that he is surrounded by like the instant death shit, and then the fact that it's not just the connecting platforms at the end, it's the fact that if you're going too fast and your mode of transportation in Sonic, you're supposed to go fast. And you get quite enough speed for stuff like Chemical Plant, but by and large, there are still those, hey, you got to climb these movable blocks, you get squished, oh joy, and then you have the roving platforms, and then right before Eggman, you have the things on the sides. So if you fall, you're screwed. I understand that's a risk, and that's part of the stage layout. But before the boss fight and after the boss fight is a bit of a dick move when it comes to, hey, I'm supposed to be using this guy who's very slippery and very, quick. But if I go too damn fast, it's my own damn fault and I die. So that's why it's always a bit of a risk. Less of a risk is the ruins, the aquatic ruins. It's fine. It's better than Labyrinth Zone. God, yeah. Because it's not just stuck in a zone. It's not a water level that's stuck in a zone. At least with the aquatic ruins, it's an open area with a lot of green and brown shit. But at least it has its own tendency to keep moving, keep the process going. Because Sonic is about, again, going fast. I'll keep reiterating that until I'm blue in the face. I made the pun. Sorry. But aquatic ruins just is kind of there. It's a thing you can do. The song is fine. The boss is unique. The whole spikes, the arrows, and you jump on the arrows and then you hit the guy with the hammer. But for me, the one zone that I'm always going to remember above anything else in Sonic 2 is Casino 9. I will spend all day in Casino 9. I don't care. It's everything from all the bounces and the boosters and the pinball junk, and I guarantee you all the stuff in there is probably what inspired the pinball stuff. Because it's great. You get to bounce everywhere. The music is lively. It's like Spring Yard Zone, but better. Because you get to bounce everywhere and you don't really get a lot of control, but you're also not like forced in a lot of instant death pits. So you get a little bit of a chance to just kind of weave your way in and out of the stage. Because the less instant death crap, the better. Because you get to explore the stage more. And you can lose yourself in those slot machines. because you get the Robotnik one, you get all the stuff missing, but you can bounce around and keep going and just rack up a shit ton of rings, although you only just need one, right? And it's just so free flowing because you don't really have a risk. None of the enemies are all that challenging in it. There's no like lava or other bullshit obstacles. The worst that's going to happen is you get squished on some of the blue bricks and shit. And even the boss is more just finagling your way around the stage than anything else. So it's not the hardest stage in the world. It's the thing that I remember and want to play Sonic 2 for, is getting to Casino Night and enjoying myself and losing myself for a few minutes and then remembering, oh shit, I gotta get out of here. Hilltop Zone is one of those like underrated ones. I think a lot of people like it more than I do. It's just more of the same Emerald Hill stuff, but a little bit more like platformy, a lot of underground and weaving your way in and out of the lava stuff. There's a lava stage in the middle. It's fine. I'm not bowled over by it. Same with like Mystic Cave. The cave is cool. I think that song is really cool. If I had to say which song was my favorite, it might be Mystic. Because I love the Casino Night stage, but I love the way the Mystic Cave Zone feels. The biggest problem is, again, it's claustrophobic, but the design of it is pretty cool. All the purples and greens and all the stuff. If you get past all of the spikes that are available, and spikes are kind of your biggest enemy, especially that death pit in, I want to say it's the second. It could be the second act, like right at the beginning. I forget where it is. It's either the first or second. But the death pit comes out of nowhere, rears its ugly head yet again, because why the fuck not, right? Boss is fine. It's nothing too major. It's just a lot of spikes coming out of the wall. It's too bad. Then, probably my second favorite is Oil Ocean Zone. Love the free-flowing nature of it. The fact that, yeah, if you fall in the ocean, you still have a little bit of leeway to not dying. Oil Ocean has an awesome, like, Middle Eastern style vibe to it. Not as overt as, say, the Sandopolis Zone, but the song is unique. It's not the super weird jazzy stuff. It's the cool, Middle Eastern sitar kind of stuff, down key and, minor chord stuff. I'm a big fan of that sort of thing. But being able to, outside of a couple of instances with fire and like those little plugs that shoot you out up and around, and you get, like, if you stand on those plugs, you get squashed, But Oil Ocean is freedom, where you get to just take all of these little zany different ways. The interesting thing about Sonic, and one of the coolest things, is experimenting with the different ways of getting places. And I always love to get vertical and see how far and how high you can go up without having to go near the death zones. And Oil Ocean, again, gives you a little bit of freedom because there's not really a lot of death zones. They're not trying to screw you over. Because even if you do fall in the oil, you still get, like, slip slides. You don't get instant death. And it's even more true that when they bring it back in Sonic Mania, there's not the death pit stuff. There's, oh, hey, you can burn the oil and do all that fun junk. It's a cool addition to things without it feeling any lesser. And then I would say my least favorite zone, is Metropolis. I think people give it I don't know if people like it or hate it. I'm just kind of, I get, because it's the only stage that has 3 acts in it. I don't know why Metropolis has 3. I don't know if it was meant to be big. I don't know why it was meant to be big. If it's boring. It's just the same green shit with a lot of instant death. It's just a lot of those little piston things that, like, you walk into it and 2 seconds later, and then 2 seconds later, and just those things. I hate the fact that they pull that crap in Sonic games a lot. And again, I understand the death mechanic has to be there sometime. Instant death mechanics have to exist, I'm sure. But when you're trying to find ways around, and especially Metropolis being very, very like, it's vertical, but it's also very mechanical, so there's a lot of stuff in there. It's just kind of, It's you're kind of weighing, trying to make progress, but not knowing where to go because the game is kind of giving you so many different. It's like Flying Battery, but worse. Flying Battery did the concept better than Metropolis did. But I would say my second least favorite is actually the ending, because there's not a lot of freedom in the air zones. Because it's kind of cool that you get to do the flying mechanic with the plane, but knowing that you're hanging on for dear life in most cases, again, is the risk. You're at the late stage of the game, everything is trying to kill you, and everything's trying to knock you off the fortress, and just trying to platform in stuff like Wing Fortress is just... Ugh. You can see that my penchant for anything that has instant death mechanics is not my favorite sort of thing. I've probably made that a tone, made that a trend. Like anything that invokes the instant death and flying off the screen and doing all that shit is not fun. Well, what is more instant death than trying to jump and navigate through the fortress, knowing that if you fall, you're airborne and you go die. Sure makes it the hardest stage in the game. Obviously, it's the end of the stage. I can understand why they would do that. But if I was to say whether I like Death Egg or this more, I'd say I like Death Egg, because it's a lot more free-flowing and there's this more cool stuff. And of course, Supersonic in the Doomsday Zone is a lot more like exciting than Wing Fortress. And then, of course, the final boss with Metal Sonic and Eggman. Again, they did this in Scrap Brain. They did the piston thing. They do you have no rings. And I think it's the worst in 2. Because if you get hit by Metal Sonic, you die. Or Mecha Sonic, I forget which one is which. But Silver Sonic, or whatever the fuck. You hit him once in the wrong spot, you die. Same thing with Robotnik or Eggman himself. You hit those spikes, you die. You get stepped on, you die. There's no room for error. I don't know how that's... Again, it's a sense of fairness. I think the older I get, the less I'm inclined to just, oh, this is super awesome because it's difficult or whatever, or I'm a boomer and I don't play platformers and shit. I dealt with this with Shantae. All right, I'm coming off of Shantae where I'm dealing with a lot of like instant death and going back to places where I'm like, I just want to get this shit done, So I'm coming from a place where I'd rather play something like Kirby, where the upshot is there's not a lot of instant death shit, and I'm here just to have a good time. Proving my superiority over a game is not all that fun or exciting to me, honestly. Which brings me to the bonus stages. I wasn't a big fan of the bonus stages in 1. I don't think anybody was like huge, because there's no control. You get some weaving in and out of the things. You're trying to get the Chaos Emeralds, and that's fine. At least with 2 and 3, you have like more physical, like you can see where everything's going. The tunnel system in 2 specifically, you give a lot more control. Like if you get those rings, if Tails gets those rings, you've made it. The problem is Tails usually used by himself or AI control, and it's like, well, fuck, I have to do it all myself, because you can't risk Tails getting the rings and then getting hit by a bomb all the time. So it's trial and error. I still prefer the uniqueness and the puzzle mechanic of the 3rd game, of the Blue Spheres, but there's nothing wrong with the 2nd upshot. Those tunnels are cool. The music is amazing, and by and large, Sonic music is always good. And even if I don't like certain stages, I mean, it's a better version of what they were going for. The fact that you have a lot more minute control over what Sonic does because he's such a floaty character is a benefit, because Sonic can only do so much, and if he fails, that's on you, and it's not the game's fault. So even though I'm not the biggest fan of the design sometimes, you know, a lot of it is still my fault for either not remembering that a death spot is there, or, you know, bullshit deaths aside in later stages, you know, because they're bullshit. You know, it's an old school game with an old school mentality. I'd prefer something like Sonic Mania, which cut down on that shit. But again, it's still invoking that old school platformer mentality back when they had to make games that lasted, you know, because they were only lasting like 45 minutes to an hour. If that, they had to make them harder, or they had to give you death things to deal with. So, you know, weigh my interest in that sort of thing to your own tastes. Again, I'm not as big a platformer guy as I used to be. I think the old me, the 1990s me, would have been all over this game. So I think I'm a little measured in my fun of Sonic 2, probably because Sonic 3 is just better. I waver back and forth which one I like more. But I just like the stage design of 3. I like the movement. I like the just everything about 3 is just a little bit cleaner, a little bit cooler looking, and they give it a lot to look at and do. Even though I don't think the stages themselves are as interesting. I think 3 is designed better. I just think 2 has more memorable stages, whether they're better or not. But it is still an improvement over 1. I think everybody can agree that it is just flat out better than 1. Because nobody looks at 1 very fondly anymore. Because as soon as you get to Marble Zone, you're just like, yeah, no. And then Labyrinth Zone, yeah, no. Forget it. So, yes. Would I recommend playing Sonic 2? If you've never heard of it, never played it, God willing if you've never heard of it, but if you've never played it before, would you enjoy it? Well, I mean, I think Sonic is, like, difficult enough. It's more difficult than Mario, obviously, but it's not, like, super punishing. I'm making it sound worse than it is just because of my preferences. I like having a little bit more minute and finer control of characters, and I don't think Sonic is the perfect way for that, because you're trying to balance speed and maneuverability and exploration, but you still get a lot of cool things in a sleek package. So Sonic is something that stands the test of time because of those first 3 games, and maybe some of the early ones, you know, or Mania, as far as a recent example. But yeah, Sonic is for just, I want to go fast. You do. You just want to go fast. And it lets you. So you get what you're asking for. But that'll do for me today. I kind of went off the cuff and didn't plan anything. And I was like, let's see what happens. And I just ran on through stage by stage. And I think that worked to my benefit. Anyway, I'm just trying to load up what the listing is for upcoming episodes, and it will be Radiant Historia, Arte, Journey of Elaina, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, the Megumin spinoff for Konosuba. I can't wait for the new season, by the way. Konosuba is so good. Sea of Stars, and Goblin Slayer Season 2, which just finished as well. Goblins! So, yes, nice quick episode here and there, and I will call it a day. And I'll see you guys next time. Citizen Strife, signing off.